first time I saw the blood on the Millionaire's white marble floor, I didn't scream. I couldn't. Because in that moment, I finally understood why he brought me here and why he insisted my children live under his roof. My name is Amara Nyango. I came to America from Ghana with a suitcase full of hope and 3 small hearts depending on me, my son Kofi, my daughter Nia, and my baby Malik. People think a maid's life is quiet. Dust, laundry, polite smiles. But silence can hide 1,000 storms. And in the Carter mansion, silence had rules. Rule 1, never enter the West Wing. Rule 2, never ask about the locked basement door. Rule 3, never look the millionaire in the eyes for too long. Mr. Victor Carter was a name people spoke with respect on television. Tech genius, philanthropist, the man who saved cities with donations and scholarships. But the Victor Carter I served didn't feel like a savior. He felt like a man who knew secrets and kept them hungry. The day he hired me, he didn't ask for references. He didn't ask about my skills. He asked one thing in a calm voice that made my skin tighten. Do you have children? I hesitated because in America, a job interview wasn't supposed to sound like an interrogation. Yes, I said. 3, his eyes softened, but not with kindness, more like recognition. Bring them, he said. They'll live here, safe, fed. School will be paid. You'll have your own wing. No rent. It sounded like a miracle, and I was desperate enough to accept without questioning the price. That's how I ended up in a mansion that smelled like lemon polish and cold metal, where every hallway had cameras and every door had a code I didn't know. My children adapted faster than I did. Kofi explored like a little soldier, always scanning corners, always listening. Nia found comfort in books and the quiet library that was bigger than the apartment we left behind. Malik laughed at the echo of his own footsteps in rooms too large for a child's joy. For the first week, Victor Carter barely spoke to us. He was always on calls, always leaving, always returning late, wearing that same expensive cologne that couldn't hide the smell of something sharp like smoke. Then came the night I heard the piano. At 2:13 a.m., a single note echoed through the mansion. Then another, then a slow, broken melody that sounded like someone remembering pain with their fingertips. I crept down the hallway barefoot, following the sound like it was pulling me. The piano room door was half open. Inside, Victor Carter sat in darkness, playing with his head slightly bowed, like a man praying to a god he didn't believe in. His voice came without warning. You're awake, Amara. My heart slammed. I heard the piano, I whispered. He didn't turn around. Do you know why I hired you? He asked. The question felt like a knife disguised as curiosity. No, sir. His fingers stopped. For a long moment, the silence in the room was so heavy I could hear my own breathing. Then he said, Because you don't belong here. I frowned, confused. Sir, he finally looked at me. His eyes weren't cruel. They were tired. But underneath tiredness was something else, something cold and calculating. "I mean, you're not like the others," he said. "You're careful, protective. You keep your children close." My throat went dry. "That's normal." "No," he said softly. "Not in my world." He stood up and walked toward me. Every step he took made my instincts scream to run. But I stayed, because mothers learn something early. Fear doesn't stop bills from coming. He stopped inches away, close enough that I could smell the smoke again. "Keep following the rules," he said, "and your children will be fine." Then he walked past me, leaving the piano room like nothing happened. I didn't sleep after that. The next day, I noticed something new, a bruise on Victor Carter's wrist. Deep purple, like someone had grabbed him hard. I wanted to ask. I wanted to pretend I cared, like a normal person would. But the mansion taught me quickly that curiosity was dangerous. That afternoon, a woman arrived. She was tall, dressed in perfect white, with hair so smooth it looked unreal. Her lipstick was the red of expensive temptation. She didn't introduce herself to me. She inspected me, like furniture. Victor Carter's face changed when he saw her tightened, like his skin didn't fit anymore. "Lillian," he said, forcing a smile. "Victor," she answered, then glanced past him. Her eyes landed on my children, who were walking back from the backyard with a soccer ball. Her gaze didn't feel like a look. It felt like a count. "How sweet," she said. "They live here too?" Victor's jaw clenched. "Yes, they're with Amara." Lillian took a slow step closer to Kofi, who instantly stopped smiling. "How old are you?" she asked. Kofi's shoulders rose. 9. "And you?" she asked Nia. 7, Nia replied quietly, hugging Malik's hand. Lillian nodded like she was noting something important. Then she looked at me for the first time. "So you're the maid," she said. I lowered my eyes. "Yes, ma'am," she smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Be careful," she said, voice sweet. "Some houses don't like new people." And then she walked away like she owned the air. That night, Kofi came to my room while Nia and Malik slept. His eyes were wide. "Mama," he whispered. "Someone was in our hallway." My blood turned cold. "What do you mean?" "I saw a shadow under the door," he said, "like feet. And then a click." "A click," I repeated. He nodded, swallowing, like a camera taking a picture. I rushed to the door and opened it. The hallway was empty, quiet, clean, too clean. I knelt and pulled Kofi close. "It's okay," I lied. "It's just the security system." But inside, my instincts were screaming the truth. We were being watched. Not just by cameras, by someone who wanted something. The next morning, I found an envelope under my pillow. No name, no stamp, just an envelope sealed tight. My fingers shook as I opened it. Inside was a single photo. A photo of me sleeping, taken from inside my room. My throat locked. On the back of the photo were 4 words written in sharp black ink. "You shouldn't have come." I dropped it like it burned. I ran down the hallway, heart punching my ribs, and knocked on Victor Carter's office door so hard my knuckles stung. No answer. I knocked again. Still nothing. I turned the handle. Locked. That was unusual. Victor's office was never locked. My stomach twisted. I heard something behind me. Soft footsteps. I spun around, and Lillian stood there, holding a cup of coffee like she belonged in my fear. She looked at the trembling photo in my hand and smiled slowly. "Ah," she said, "you found it." My voice came out broken. Did you do this?" She tilted her head. "Me? No." Then she leaned closer, whispering like a friend. "It's worse than that." My body went numb. "Victor Carter didn't bring you here to save you," she murmured. "He brought you here because of what you know and what you don't remember." I stared at her. "I don't understand." Lillian's smile widened. "You will," she said. "Soon." Then she walked away, leaving me frozen in the hallway, holding proof that my children and I were trapped inside a beautiful cage, and that someone, maybe Victor, maybe Lillian, maybe both, had been waiting for us. If you're listening right now, subscribe, because what I discovered next made me realize this wasn't just a job. It was a revenge story, and I was standing in the middle of it, without knowing who the enemy truly was. That evening, the west wing door, always locked, was slightly open, just enough, and from inside, I heard a child's laugh. Not Malik, not Nia, not Kofi, a stranger's laugh, echoing from a part of the house that wasn't supposed to have anyone in it. My legs moved before my brain could stop them. I reached the door, pushed it gently, and saw a small handprint on the wall. Fresh, wet, red. Then the lights in the hallway turned off all at once, and behind me, a voice whispered my name in the dark. Amara. The lights went out so suddenly that the darkness felt alive. I froze, my fingers still touching the edge of the west wing door. My heart pounding so hard I was afraid it would give me away. "Amara," the whisper came again, closer this time. I turned slowly, my breath trapped in my chest, but the hallway behind me was empty. No footsteps, no shadows, just darkness and the faint hum of the mansion's security system coming back online one by one. The lights flickered. When they fully returned, the west wing door was closed, locked, like it had never been open at all. I stumbled back, my knees weak, my mind screaming one thought over and over. That handprint was real. The laughter was real. And whatever lived in this house knew my name. I didn't go back to my room. I went straight to my children. They were asleep, curled together on the bed like they always did when they sensed danger before I did. I sat between them until morning, watching their chests rise and fall, promising myself silently that no matter what this house demanded, I would not let it take them. By sunrise, Victor Carter was already gone. No good morning, no instructions, no explanation, but something had changed. The mansion felt tighter, like the walls were listening harder. That afternoon, a man arrived, tall, thin, gray-haired, dressed too simply for someone who walked into a billionaire's home without hesitation. He didn't ask for Victor. He asked for me. "My name is Daniel Ross," he said calmly. "I'm here to inspect the lower levels." "We don't have a basement inspection scheduled," I replied carefully. He smiled, but it wasn't friendly. "Victor doesn't schedule these," he said. "He survives them." That sentence stayed with me long after he disappeared down the hallway that led to the locked basement door. I followed him at a distance, not because I was brave, because I was a mother who had seen a threat circle too close. Daniel stopped at the basement door, punched in a code, and went inside. The door didn't close behind him. I stood there for almost a full minute, arguing with myself. Then I stepped in. The air downstairs was colder, heavier, like it had been sealed away for years. The walls were concrete, the lights fluorescent and unforgiving. And then I saw the rooms, small, windowless, locked. One door had scratches on the inside, another had a child's drawing taped to it. My vision blurred. "What is this place?" I whispered. Daniel turned around slowly. "You really don't remember," he said. I shook my head. "Remember what?" He studied my face like a doctor delivering bad news. "5 years ago," he said, "you testified in a case involving human trafficking. Corporate level. Offshore accounts. Powerful names." My stomach dropped. "That's impossible," I said. "I was in Ghana 5 years ago." "No," he said softly. "You were here in the United States, under a different name." My ears rang. He reached into his pocket and handed me a file. Inside were documents, photos, and one ID card. My face stared back at me. But the name wasn't Amara Nyingo. It was Amina Akafer, investigative assistant, federal witness. My legs gave out. I leaned against the wall to stay standing. "This isn't me," I whispered. "It was," Daniel said, "until the fire." Images flashed in my mind. Not clear, just fragments, smoke, screaming, sirens. A man shouting my name. "You survived," he continued. "Your children survived, but you didn't want to remember. The trauma was severe. You were relocated, new identity, memory suppression therapy." I looked at him in horror. "Then why am I here?" I asked. "Why this house?" Daniel's eyes hardened. "Because Victor Carter funded the trafficking ring you helped expose," he said. "And his son died because of your testimony." The room spun. "You destroyed his empire," Daniel added, "and he destroyed your past." I suddenly understood the rules, the cameras, the basement. "He hired me," I whispered. "To keep you close," Daniel said, "to watch you, to punish himself, and maybe to punish you." My chest burned. "And Lillian?" I asked. Daniel went silent. "That," he said, "is where things get complicated." He closed the file and looked me dead in the eyes. "Lillian wasn't just Victor's partner," he said. "She was the architect, and she knows you're remembering." As if summoned by his words, the lights flickered again. A loud thud echoed from upstairs. A child screamed. My blood turned to ice. "That was Nia," I said, already running. I flew up the stairs 2 at a time, fear tearing through me like claws. When I reached the hallway, my children's door was open. The room was empty, beds messed up, window open, and on the wall, written in red marker this time, were the words, "Memory is a dangerous thing." I collapsed to my knees. Somewhere in the mansion, a door slammed, and over the security speakers, Victor Carter's voice echoed calmly through the house. "Amara," he said, or should I say Amina? My heart shattered. "You wanted answers," he continued. "Now earn them. If you're still listening, subscribe, because what he forced me to do next proved this wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about survival. And my children were now the price." Victor Carter's voice faded from the speakers, but its echo stayed, trapped inside my skull. My children were gone, not lost, not misplaced, taken. I stood in that empty room for a second too long, staring at Nia's small shoe near the bed, Malik's blanket half dragged across the floor, Kofi's soccer ball missing like it had never existed. This wasn't panic. This was war. I ran down the hall, past cameras I no longer tried to hide from, past doors that suddenly felt like enemies. "Daniel," I screamed. "Daniel," no answer. I reached the staircase when my phone vibrated in my pocket. A blocked number. One message. "Come alone. Basement. 10 minutes. Or they learn how screams travel through concrete." My hands shook so badly, I almost dropped the phone. Every instinct in my body told me this was a trap. But a mother doesn't negotiate with fear. She walks straight into it. I grabbed the kitchen knife on the way down, not because I thought I could fight a billionaire's security, but because holding something sharp made me feel less hollow. The basement door was open, wide open, like a mouth waiting to swallow me. I stepped inside. The lights were already on. Victor Carter stood in the center of the room, calm, composed. Wearing a dark sweater like this was just another business meeting. Behind him, the locked doors. I could hear breathing. Small, shaky. My knees buckled. "Where are my children?" I whispered. Victor tilted his head, studying me the way people examine insects before deciding whether to crush them. "You always did go straight to the point," he said. "That hasn't changed." "You promised they'd be safe," I said, my voice breaking. "You promised." "Yes," he replied evenly. "And they are, for now." I took a step forward. 2 men appeared instantly from the shadows, guns raised. Victor lifted a hand. They stopped. "You see," he continued, "I brought you here because memory is unreliable. People forget pain. People move on." He walked toward one of the doors and rested his palm against it. I couldn't. A child whimpered inside. My vision blurred with rage. "You ruined my life," he said quietly. "You destroyed my son." Something inside me snapped. "I testified against monsters," I screamed. "If your son was part of that." "He was 16, Victor roared suddenly, slamming his fist against the door. 16 and scared, and trying to run from a system that already owned him. Silence fell. Then his voice softened again, more dangerous than before. "And you helped bury him." I shook my head, tears streaming. I didn't know. That's the problem with justice, Victor said. It never cares who gets crushed underneath. He turned to face me fully. So I decided to be fair. My stomach dropped. I gave you a home, he said. I fed your children. I let you forget. He stepped closer. And now I'm giving you a choice. I clenched the knife. What choice? Remember everything, he said, or lose them. One of the men rolled a screen toward us and turned it on. A video began to play. It was me, not Amara, Amina. I was younger, sharper, sitting across from federal agents, eyes burning with purpose. I have names, the woman on screen said. Bank routes, locations, children's transport schedules. I couldn't breathe. I warned you, Victor said softly. You were relentless. The video cut to another clip. A fire, a warehouse, police sirens, bodies covered in white sheets. And then a boy, curly hair, blood on his face. Victor's son. I collapsed to my knees. I didn't want him to die, I sobbed. I never wanted that. Victor crouched in front of me. I believe you, he said. That was worse. Then why are you doing this? I whispered. Because belief doesn't heal graves, he replied. Pain does. Suddenly, a loud alarm blared. Red lights flashed. One of the guards cursed. Victor's head snapped up. What's happening? He demanded. A voice came through the speakers. Not Victor's, not security. A woman's voice. Smooth, controlled, amused. Oh, Victor, Lillian said. You really should have killed her when you had the chance. My blood froze. The lights shut off again. Gunshots echoed, screams. Chaos exploded in the basement. The guards dropped, one by one. Victor stumbled back, shocked. What did you do? He shouted. Lillian's voice echoed everywhere. What I always do, she said. I finish things. Emergency lights flickered on. I saw it then, one of the cell doors open. Kofi burst out, eyes wild, dragging Nia behind him. Malik cried in his arms. Mama, Kofi screamed. I ran. I grabbed them, pulling them into my chest so hard it hurt. But there was no time. Footsteps thundered down the stairs. Lillian appeared at the top, gun in hand, smiling like she'd waited years for this moment. You took my empire, she said to Victor. You took my profits. Then she looked at me, and you took my future. She raised the gun. If you're still listening, subscribe now, because the next decision I made didn't just decide who lived. It decided who deserved to suffer. I stepped in front of my children, and for the first time in years, I remembered everything. Every name, every secret, every crime. And I realized something terrifying. Lillian wasn't here to kill us. She was here to make sure no one else survived to tell the truth. And behind me, Victor Carter whispered words that chilled my soul. She's right, Amina. This ends tonight. Lillian's gun was steady. Too steady for someone acting on emotion. That's how I knew this wasn't rage. It was calculation. My children clung to me, their small bodies shaking. Malik's face was buried in my neck, his breath hot and uneven. Nia cried without Kofi stood rigid, trying to be brave in a way no child ever should. Victor Carter stepped back slowly, his eyes moving between Lillian and me, like a man realizing too late that he was never in control. "You're making a mistake," he said to her. "If you kill her, everything comes out." Lillian laughed softly. "Oh, Victor," she said, "everything already has." She took another step down the stairs. Behind her, the mansion's emergency lights pulsed red, bathing the basement in a color that looked too much like blood. "You think you were the mastermind," she continued. "You think you owned the pain." Her eyes flicked to me, but she was always the real threat, even when she forgot. My heart hammered, but my mind was suddenly clear, because memory didn't come back like a wave. It came back like a blade, sharp, precise, deadly. I remembered the meetings, the shipping manifests, the coded language used to move children across borders. And I remembered Lillian, always in white, always smiling, always one step ahead. "You were never just Victor's partner," I said slowly. "You were the broker." Her smile widened. "See," she said. "She remembers." Victor's face collapsed. "You told me she was a minor player," he said to Lillian. "You told me she was nothing." Lillian didn't look at him. "I told you what you needed to hear," she replied. "That's how power works." She raised the gun again, aiming past me, at the children. Something inside me went completely still. "No," I said. She hesitated, not because of fear, because of curiosity. I reached into my pocket with shaking fingers. Daniel's file, the one she didn't know I still had. "I sent everything," I said, "before I came down here." Victor's head snapped toward me. "You what?" "Names, accounts, locations," I said, my voice steady now. "To 3 different servers, and one journalist who doesn't sleep." Lillian's smile faltered for the first time. "You're bluffing." "I'm not," I said, "and you know it." Her jaw tightened. "You wouldn't risk your children." I looked down at them, then back at her. "I already did," I said, 5 years ago, "and I won't do it again." Silence stretched, the kind that decides who lives. Lillian exhaled slowly. Then she laughed, loud, unhinged. "You still don't understand," she said. "This house is locked down. No signal, no exits." She turned slightly, gesturing with the gun. "You think you're the only one with backups." She pressed a button on her phone. A screen on the wall lit up. Live footage, multiple locations, warehouses, docks, private airstrips, children, cages. My stomach dropped. "Those are still running," she said calmly. "Even if I die." Victor staggered back like he'd been punched. "You told me you shut it down," he whispered. "I told you it was quieter," she corrected. She stepped closer to me. "So here's what's going to happen," she said. "You'll give me every name you remember, every code, every contact. And if I don't," she lowered the gun and smiled at my children. "I start with the smallest one." Time fractured. I didn't think, I moved. I threw the knife. It wasn't perfect, but it didn't have to be. Lillian screamed as it cut across her arm, the gun clattering down the stairs. Victor lunged for it. A shot went off. The sound was deafening. Victor froze, then slowly looked down. Blood spread across his sweater. Dark, thick, real. He dropped to his knees. Lillian stared at him in shock. "I didn't mean," Victor laughed. A broken, hollow sound. "You always did," he said. Sirens erupted outside the mansion. Real sirens, police, federal. Everything I had sent was finally landing. Lillian turned toward the exit, panic cracking her composure. She didn't make it. Daniel emerged from the shadows, gun raised. "Federal agent," he said calmly. "Drop." Lillian ran. Daniel fired. She fell hard. The room went quiet except for Malik's crying and Victor's labored breathing. Victor looked at me, at my children, at the wreckage of his revenge. "You won," he whispered. I shook my head. "No," I said. "This is just truth catching up." He closed his eyes and didn't open them again. Daniel rushed to us, ushering my children into his arms. "It's over," he said softly. "They're safe." I wanted to believe him, but as paramedics flooded the basement, as Lillian was dragged away in handcuffs, as the house finally lost its power, I realized something chilling. This wasn't the end, because systems like this don't die in one night. They scatter, they hide, they wait. And as I held my children, listening to the chaos fade into distance, my phone vibrated. One new message. Unknown sender. 3 words. You missed one. If you're still listening, subscribe now, because what came next proved that the most dangerous enemy wasn't in the mansion. It was still out there, and it knew my name. The message stayed on my screen long after the sirens faded. You missed one. 3 words. No punctuation. No threat. That was worse. Daniel noticed my face change and took the phone from my shaking hand. His jaw tightened as he read it. "They're not wrong," he said quietly. "There's always one." The mansion was sealed by morning. Crime scene tape wrapped around it like a warning the world would ignore by sunset. News vans arrived. Reporters whispered the same names I had buried twice already. Victor Carter, dead. Lillian Hayes, arrested. Massive trafficking network exposed. A clean ending. Too clean. They moved us to a safe house before sunrise. No windows. No neighbors. Just silence and armed men who didn't speak unless necessary. My children slept for the first time in days. I didn't, because memory had fully returned now. And memory doesn't let you rest. I remembered the 4th partner, the one I never saw, the one Lillian called the shadow. No name, no face, only money, always money. I told Daniel everything I remembered, every half-burned detail, every code word, every offshore route that didn't fit the others. He listened, and then he went very quiet. "That account," he said slowly, pointing to a name I had written down. "It was activated 6 hours ago." My blood turned cold. "By who?" He didn't answer immediately. "That account is registered to a trust," he said. "One that just changed beneficiaries." "To who?" I pressed. He looked at me. To your children. The room tilted. What? I whispered. The shadow transferred everything, Daniel said, billions, into accounts under their names. My heart pounded in terror. That's not a gift, I said. That's a leash. Daniel nodded. Exactly. That's when the power cut. Not an outage, a kill. The guards outside the room dropped before we even heard the shots. Lights shattered. Windows exploded inward. I grabbed my children and ran toward the bathroom, locking us inside as alarms screamed. Footsteps approached. Slow, confident. A knock echoed through the door. Polite. Amara, a man's voice said calmly. Or Amina. I suppose both work. I pressed my back to the door, holding my children. Who are you? I shouted. The man chuckled. Disappointed, he said. After everything, you still don't recognize my voice. Recognition slammed into me like a gunshot. The courtroom, the fire, the man who funded the lawyers that tried to discredit me. You, I whispered, Judge Marcus Hale. Former judge, he corrected, retired, untouchable. Until you, my stomach twisted. You were the shadow, I said. Yes, he replied easily. And you ruined a very efficient system. The door handle rattled. Don't open it, I screamed to my children, like they ever would. I didn't come to kill you, Hale said. I came to finish a conversation we started years ago. A crack appeared in the door. You're going to call off the investigation, he continued. You're going to publicly say you made mistakes. And if I don't, the man sighed, then your children become the richest orphans in history. My breath left me. You monster, I whispered. Professional, he corrected. Monsters are sloppy. The door burst open. Shots rang out, screams. Daniel's voice yelled my name. I covered my children, waiting for the pain. It didn't come. When I opened my eyes, Marcus Hale was on the floor, bleeding, staring up at me in disbelief. Daniel stood over him, gun smoking. Internal affairs, Daniel said coldly. You should have retired quieter. Hale laughed, blood bubbling from his mouth. You think killing me ends this? He gasped. The money is already moving. Daniel cuffed him anyway. As they dragged Hale away, he locked eyes with me. You'll never escape it, he said. Your children will always be targets. That night, as my children slept under guard, I stared at the ceiling knowing he was right. The system was wounded, not dead. And now my children were marked. If you're still listening, subscribe. Because the final choice I made wasn't about revenge. It was about becoming something worse. Something they couldn't afford to hunt. And the last part of this story is the one nobody expects. I didn't sleep that night. Not because of fear, but because I understood the truth Marcus Hale had left behind like a curse. As long as my children were valuable, they were vulnerable. Money had marked them. Names had marked me. So by sunrise, I made a decision that shocked even Daniel. I asked for a meeting with everyone. Federal agents, financial crimes, cybersecurity, intelligence. One room, one table, and me. I told them I would cooperate fully on one condition: immunity for my children, permanent, irrevocable, new identities, new countries, no digital footprint, no inheritance, no trace. They hesitated. I smiled, and then I gave them something they didn't expect: the kill switch. The Shadows network wasn't just accounts and routes. It was an algorithm, a system that punished greed automatically. I had helped design it years ago, thinking it would expose monsters. Instead, it rewarded them. Until now, I gave the code, every hidden trigger, every dead man protocol. By noon, money started disappearing. Not stolen, erased. Shell companies collapsed in minutes. Politicians resigned before lunch. Private jets were grounded midair when accounts froze. Panic spread quietly, the way real fear always does. Daniel watched it all unfold, eyes dark. "You're burning the entire underworld," he said. "No," I replied. "I'm closing it." By nightfall, the shadow network was gone. So was its protection. That's when the calls started. Threats, pleas, promises. I ignored them all because my children were already gone. New names, new lives. They would grow up never knowing what they escaped. And that was the point. A week later, I visited Marcus Hale one last time. Prison stripped the power from him faster than age ever could. "You destroyed everything," he rasped through the glass. I leaned closer. "No," I said softly. "I corrected it." He laughed weakly. "You think you won?" I looked him in the eyes. "I didn't come here to win," I said. "I came to end the game." That night, I disappeared too. No goodbye, no legacy, just silence. Years passed. The world moved on. New scandals replaced old ones, and somewhere far away, 3 children grew up safe, unknown, untraceable. Sometimes, when the ocean is quiet, I stand near the shore and listen. Not for danger, for peace. And I remind myself of the truth that saved us all. Revenge consumes. Justice exposes. But karma waits. If you stayed until the end, subscribe. Because some stories aren't meant to scare you. They're meant to warn you. And this one was real enough to survive.